Here's how to solo complete the main Easter egg on Terminus. Now, this guide assumes you're already familiar with completing some extra side quests, such as crafting a free Beamsmasher and doing the satellite Easter egg. For a more detailed step-by-step walkthrough covering everything in one video, check out my extended solo guide, which is linked down below. Now, before we start, I just wanted to quickly recommend that you run with the ASG shotgun and the Napalm Burst ammo mod for this. You can find it as a wall buy in the stamina up room, and although it's a little bit dog water in the earlier rounds, once you start upgrading this thing, it becomes an entirely different beast, so definitely give it a try. Also, Ether Shroud is going to be very helpful, and we're going to need a shock charge at some point, so I usually like to start my game with one of those. I'll explain more on that later. So with that being said, to start this Easter egg, you'll need to activate all 3 amp stations, which will be indicated on screen. After that final one is complete in the lab, go ahead and jump into the water and interact with this terminal to lift the Pack-a-Punch platform. Next, you'll need to acquire the Beamsmasher. You can get this from the mystery box, by crafting a free one, or potentially by doing the satellite Easter egg. Once you've got the Beamsmasher, you're then going to see which one of the 4 tentacle traps is already broken open. The first one can be found at spawn right outside the guard station that Peck and Strauss are sitting in. From there, you can find the next one down at this exit of the Jugg room right next to the second amp station, and then the 3rd and 4th traps are both located in the biolab. One will be at the exit of the Speed Cola cave, and the other at the exit of the PhD cave on the opposite side. Once you find the trap that's already open, if you look on the ground beneath it, you'll see a little keycard. This is the indicator that lets us know we're at the right trap. Once you find it, go ahead and activate the trap, then fire into the very center of it with the Beamsmasher, which does not need to be upgraded. If you're at the right one, this will eventually drop a hard drive for you to collect. Moving on, once you've got that hard drive, go ahead and hand it over to Peck. Now you'll need to find 3 numbers for a code. The first number can be found outside the zombie spawn in the quick revive room. If you take a look at the clock, you'll want to take note of the hour hand, which is the smaller one. So in my game, since the hour hand is just past the 5, that is going to be the first number of my code. Next, if you head out to the mess hall area and look at a bulletin board on the wall, you'll see a playing card tacked to it, which is going to be your second number. This one is pretty straightforward, but just so you know, if you have an ace, that means your number is a 1. And finally, if you head across from that area through the Jugg room and into the engineering room, you can find your 3rd number written on this sign. Now that you have your code, head down to the lab and interact with the center holding tank. This will activate a short sequence, after which you can interact with it again to enter your code. Once the tank is unlocked, you'll then interact with it again to begin a mid-game boss fight. Now, this mini-boss is very beefy, but as mentioned earlier, if you have the ASG upgraded at least once or twice with close to an epic rarity, you can take him out in no time. Just keep moving around the lab and watch out for zombies so they don't get in the way. Also, try to maintain a good distance from this boss because he could potentially down you instantly if he grabs hold of you. Alternatively, if you don't have the firepower at this time, you can always just keep running around the lab to avoid him. Typically, after about 5 to 7 minutes, the lockdown will eventually end and you'll get a little cutscene. Either way, you should still be making efforts to fully upgrade your ASG. So once the cutscene is over, go ahead and jump into the water to your right and swim down to collect this keycard. With that, you'll then need to head over to the communications room and interact with this computer. Now, before heading out to do the next step, you'll want to visit a crafting station and get yourself a shock charge if you don't already have one. Once you've got that, take a ride into the wrecked ship where there's going to be a ladder you can climb that leads up to a hidden workshop. Inside will be a workbench with 2 node connectors. Pick one of them up, then wait for the hatch to close and for zombies to start spawning. If you throw a shock charge right next to the hatch and let a zombie activate it, the hatch will eventually open back up and you'll be able to skip the lockdown entirely. So, with that node connector, hop back into your raft and head over to Crab Island. When you get there, you may need to clear out some of the zombies that spawn and a mangler, but go ahead and take a look at these network cables to see if they need to be connected. If they do, you'll add that node connector. If they don't, you'll skip to the next location. So once that's been added, you'll have to return to the workshop, collect the final node, and then head back toward the main island. If you dock at the tower area, you'll find another possible location to add the connector in this back corner. But if that one is already done, you'll need to head up the stairs, take a left, then head down the right side of the Speed Cola cave until you find the last set of cables. Once both connections have been repaired, make your way back to spawn where Peck will eventually give you a hacking device. Now, before moving on, I'd recommend swapping out your shock charge for 2 smoke grenades. Again, I'll explain in a moment, but for now, you need to take a raft out and visit 3 buoys. If you're leaving from the docks area, the first one can be found by taking a left. If you point your raft toward it and then hop off the motor a few feet away, you'll drift right up to the buoy to easily use the hacking device. Once you finish that first one, a 2-minute timer will start counting down, so you'll need to continue heading left until you find the second buoy. This one is located near the temple island. Again, use the hacking device, then keep heading left toward the wrecked ship to finish the final buoy. If done correctly, your screen will go white and the characters will deliver some story details. After they're done speaking, you'll then need to defuse 3 bombs down in the biolab. Now, as soon as you finish that last buoy, go ahead and make your way back to the docks and then head up to the entrance of the PhD cave. You'll want to wait out there until another 5-minute timer appears on your screen. As soon as it does, run down to the lab, activate the trap at the end of the cave, and then take a right. Your goal is to try and defuse the first bomb without being interrupted by zombies. Since we waited up above before the timer started, there should be no zombie spawning in the lab for at least a couple more seconds. If you can't finish this in time, don't worry, your progress is saved and you can run around to try again without having to completely restart. Anyway, once that first bomb is complete, you'll then head to the opposite end of that lower level to find the second bomb. Now for this one, go ahead and throw down a smoke right in front of it. This will hide you just long enough to finish defusing the bomb as long as you don't shoot or you aren't already swarmed by zombies. The hidden effect from these smokes lasts much longer than decoy grenades, so that's why we're using them. And finally, once that bomb is complete, you'll have one more remaining, which can be found by taking the stairs to your right up onto the second level. Now, if you mess any of these up like I just did, and you can't get good smoke coverage over that area, try to defuse it as much as you can, then hop off to eventually make your way back around. This is why I also recommend Ether Shroud. It doesn't last quite as long, but it should be just enough to help you finish that final bomb. Now, if you can't finish these within the 5 minutes, the map will blow up and your game will end. But if you are successful, your screen will go white and you're now ready for the boss fight. So, as always, buy armor, buy perks, craft yourself some monkey bombs, and upgrade your ASG as much as possible, even if it means spending 5 rounds just to gather points and salvage. It's really going to help having that thing upgraded to Legendary and Tier 3 Pack-a-Punch. If you can manage it, try to upgrade your Beamsmasher too so you can preserve some of your ASG ammo in between the boss fight stages. Also, get yourself a chopper gunner if you don't already have one. When I get to this point, I usually spend a few rounds just completing SAM trials to see what kind of stuff I can get. Once you think you're finally ready, go ahead and interact with the door beside Melee Macchiato to begin the boss fight. This can take a few seconds to activate, so just keep that in mind. Anyway, after a short introduction cutscene, as soon as you can, go ahead and shoot the boss to see which one of his shoulders turns red. That's the side you'll want to immediately run to and hide behind cover. Once there, go ahead and use your ASG to hit that weak spot. Since we have the Napalm Burst ammo mod, this will significantly reduce the boss's health. Now, of course, you're going to be swarmed by zombies, so what you're going to do is wait for the boss to slam down on that center platform. As soon as it does, go ahead and run over to the other side. Once you're at least halfway there, that's when you can resume shooting the boss's shoulders. If you do it any sooner, you may not have enough time to get to cover before it slams again. But what's nice about that slam is it'll actually take out all of the zombies that follow you. So this is going to be the main strategy during this boss fight. You run from side to side, dealing as much damage as you can to the boss's shoulders. After some time, the boss will sink below the water, and now you just have to focus on the zombies. This is when the Beamsmasher comes in handy to weaken and kill them. You actually don't have to kill anything during this part, but it's still nice to get some of your armor back and potentially some ammo. During this, the only thing you'll have to worry about is a Mangler, but again, your ASG should take care of him without a problem. Once the boss finally returns, you will have completed stage 1, and a max ammo will spawn in the center of the platform. Go ahead and grab that as soon as possible though, because it will eventually despawn. So for stage 2, the boss's weak point will first be its mouth. So again, you're going to run from side to side and damage the boss only when you're at least halfway across the platform. Now this time around, when the boss does its slam attack, oftentimes it will immediately follow up with another slam. So I'd recommend watching for this and only leaving from your cover once the second slam is done. Also, if you get caught directly beneath one of those slams, you'll instantly go down, so that is going to be a major thing to watch out for during this fight. After you've damaged the mouth enough, the next weak point will then be the boss's arms, which will glow like so. These are actually a little easier to remain behind cover to hit without having to run back and forth, but again, just be mindful of the zombies. Now, of course, you have the entire backside of the arena open if you need to run there, but when you do, the boss will try to change its position to match you, so I'd really recommend just staying on that center platform if possible. Anyway, once you finish damaging the arms, the boss's weak spot will then return to either its mouth or shoulders. So just rinse and repeat, and eventually the boss will sink below the water again, and you'll be left to survive against zombies, manglers, and now an amalgam. It's definitely recommended to try and get rid of that amalgam while the boss is gone, so it won't be too much hassle later on. Also, if you fall into the water at any point during this fight, there are numerous ladders you can use to get back up into the arena, but just try and use one that is opposite from where you fell, because the zombies really like to wait for you at the top while you're climbing up. And finally, when the boss returns for stage 3, go ahead and throw a monkey bomb if you have one. Then take a look to see which weak spot you need to focus on. You'll also notice that the boss now has a new attack using its tongue. If you ever get stuck in this attack, just shoot at its mouth and you should be released. Anyway, after some more damage, the boss will begin to glow blue, which means it's getting ready to charge up for a wipe attack. Now, if you can manage it, try to get behind cover before the boss attacks, or you can jump into the water to avoid taking damage. As soon as it slams, that's when you're going to want to activate your chopper. During this, the boss is going to try and charge up for another wipe, so you have to shoot at its face and eyes when its head leans back. This will cancel out the charge, and then eventually the shoulder weak spots will return that you can focus your fire on. Finally, after dealing any more damage that may be needed, you will kill Patient 13, and the final cutscene will soon begin to play. Good luck, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.